Hello, hello, hello.
Hey guys, good morning.
Hey, good
All
morning.
right. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Charley Miller with the Unitonomy. We've got Brad Shuck here from the University of Louisville, and we've got Martin Lowe from OnPlane Consulting. Thanks, guys, for joining here, and excited to be doing this every day with you for a while, talking employee connectedness in this time where we all need to feel connected.
Absolutely.
Everybody hear me okay? That's always the first
Hear
question.
you. Hear you
Great,
great. Can you guys
great.
hear me okay?
Yeah,
Awesome.
great, great. We're all new at this, so bear with us. But we wanted to start this first conversation where we're inviting the general public in, really to think about things like safety and what leadership should be doing at different organizations as they help their employees just figure out this crazy time with the pandemic. So maybe the right place to start this morning is just to say, if you were the leader of a company right now, what is the one thing that should be on your mind or should be doing? I'm going to start with you, Martin.
Oh man, you just get one.
Well, what's the most critical place to start right now?
I I think that yeah, I've had a number of conversations on this, and I think the one thing that really resonates with me is how much of your actions today are going to be remembered and part of your brand for a very long time. This is kind of almost in a lot of ways a once in a lifetime experience, I hope. And we've never, at least in my lifetime, experienced anything like this, and probably for quite a while. And because of the amazing times that we're in, people are going to remember what you did with your business and with your brand. And so a lot of these owners are
Mhm.
trying to figure out, how do I just keep the wheels on? Which is a tough question in and of itself. But I think it's so important to say, inside the context of this, what is my brand? How is it defined? What is the purpose of what I am doing? And then how do I best reflect this in this time, knowing that like your financial impact is like a piece of it, but it's a bigger question than just a dollars and cents thing. It's a, how do I want to be remembered? I was talking with a friend of mine who was in Hawaii when they had the false alarm go out for the nuclear warning system
Right.
3 or 4 years ago, and he remembers being in a strip mall and one large, well-known organization forced everyone out of the stores. One large, not as well-known organization was telling everybody to come in and seek shelter. And he's like, I didn't even know what this other brand was. It's a brand that everybody's kind of heard of, but he's like, I'll never forget that, one company was trying to protect themselves and not really worried about everybody else. One company was trying to worry about everybody else. And this is years ago, was something that, at the time for him felt like a big deal, but isn't going to be anywhere near as well remembered as this. So, how you act with your brand right now means so much to so many people, and it's going to stick with you for a very long time. Being kind, being good to your community and to your employees and to yourself is super important right now. And then also, don't forget, if you're going to do all the hard work, like, get some good press for it. Make sure that people know what you're doing. Don't brag, but don't sell yourself short.
Well, and maybe a good way of kind of packaging that up, the idea of it's not maybe selling what you're doing, but it's providing leadership externally. Look, here's what we're doing that's
Totally,
working. Learn from this.
totally,
Everyone has a way
totally.
to lead within their own companies, but I think thought sharing right now is really, really smart, and that's one reason why we're doing this live stream.
Yeah.
Brad, over to
Yep.
you. You look at all this through a different lens, right? You're a researcher. You've always focused on employee engagement, how the employee experience can be measured inside companies so leadership can understand how to improve matters, make sure employees feel good about all the things. You probably never prepared for a pandemic of understanding how employees might feel in an episode like this, but what are you doing right now as you sort of help guide other companies right now think about how to understand employees emotionally?
Yeah, so you're right. Having or being involved in a pandemic is something that I haven't prepared for as a researcher, as a social scientist. But I'm gonna piggyback on what Martin's saying here, and I think now is the time to really double down on how people are feeling about work. Are they feeling connected? Are they feeling safe? Do they feel like there's a sense of belonging with their team? You know, what I find is when people feel unsafe, they have a tendency to focus in on themselves, which is understandable. Look, I'm just trying to figure out, all right, what's going on with me, my home situation, what's going on with my homeschool now. I tell folks we opened the Shuck School for Arts, Reading, and Fort Building here at our home,
The
and
kids.
we have an enrollment of one, and I'm the assistant principal. I'm not the principal. My wife is in charge and the principal. So we're just trying to like figure out this disruption that's occurred. And I think people, when at least for me, when my life is disrupted, I'm looking for anything that can help me feel grounded. And for many of us, that is work. This is a marker. This is a life marker for many folks. There's going to be pre COVID-19 and there's going to be post COVID-19. And I think our work realities are going to look incredibly different as a result of that. And we're going to, we are now looking for things that ground us. And before that was work for many folks. We worked a tremendous amount. There was a lot of capacity. There was many things going on. It's natural for us to look back at that. And Martin's absolutely right. People are not gonna forget how they felt in this moment. And so a kind word goes a really long way. Compassionate communication that is not overwhelming, it's transparent, it's honest, it's open, is gonna go a long way in helping people feel very connected to the organization. But also, one of the goals that we think about with engagement is not just about how do people perform better or work harder, but how do people live better lives through their work. And this is a real opportunity to seize that moment where we can have the opportunity and the potential to help people live better lives by the way in which we go about structuring, communicating, and leading through our work.
So, love what you just said. I was talking to someone yesterday who's interviewing me because Unitonomy building tools for to help people work remotely. Of course, there's a tidal wave now of people trying to work remotely. And in the last few weeks, it's really been the conversation has really been about the tools, like how just can we do this? Literally setting up our home office and getting our video conferencing working, and maybe you need a VPN or whatever it might be. Oh yeah, all right, let's get Microsoft Teams or Slack working now. And what does that mean? And the conversation all of a sudden, I think, is shifting this week now past the sort of technical pieces, and we're starting to get to, okay, our feet are under us now, but there's all this news coming about the pandemic, and we're all just sort of really uneasy about all the unknowns that are going to be happening over the next weeks and months.
Yeah.
And in the conversation with the interviewer yesterday, I was talking about maybe this isn't a time to think about productivity. Maybe we should start by just making sure everyone's emotionally supported. And that, I think, is a really important lens for any leader in any organization to say, let's understand the fabric of our collaborations and let's build up the sense of safety right now. We'll worry about really our emotion and our inertia with all things productivity and performance and time. But back to the point you guys are just making, what you do now as a leader is going to be your brand and your company for a very long time. Crisis really defines character. And this is an opportunity to say, hey, we're not going to worry about productivity right now. We're going to worry about each other. And I think if you lead with that, you're starting with the right piece of empathy that every employee needs right now. With amazing things with video conferencing, yay, we can see each other, we can read body language, we can hear each other's voice. That's obviously the first piece of connectedness. But the next piece of connectedness, to your all's point about the nice word, the nice outreach, that goes even further right now to making people feel like the bonds are there to support each other when things get really bad or really hard in the outside world.
Yeah.
Totally.
Go ahead, Martin, please.
No. You got there first.
Well, I'll say this, and I want to toss it over to you to talk a little bit how crisis might define character, kind of in this particular moment. One of the things, Charlie, to your point, is I see a lot of things about tools and tricks and all right, how do I put structure in place? And it's all, I think, really is well intentioned and positive. What I don't see a lot of is all right. How do I process this? How do I feel? What are the ways in which I can think about this in a way that helps me come out of this on the backside of it, not only as a leader but also as a part of an organization. So I love that we're talking about, all right, how do we process this information? How do we think about this emotionally? Because our research shows that emotion is the tipping point to behavior. So how we feel really does drive the outcomes.
Huge.
Yeah. Well, and Brett, probably one of the things, I don't know enough people are talking about this, like it's out there in the world. And you guys just saw this, right? So, I used to have this social distance between my work life and my family life because I would go to the office and my kids go to school.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden, Here I am doing a live stream and we got a cameo. Right? and I was going to joke.
It's great.
Well, totally. And I was going to joke that we should have like a about who gets the first cameo because
first kid.
One of us was going to get it.
Yeah,
but I think that. Yeah.
But I think that the new reality for a lot of these people in terms of how you process this is all of a sudden that since, hold on, somebody went somewhere.
There we go.
There we go. Now you're back.
That new reality about not having that distance anymore has changed things a lot. And just as much as you want to be productive, so many people are dealing with the ramifications of these massive changes in their home life, whether they're worried about the future and their financial state, or parents or someone be extra susceptible to this, or they're just trying to adjust to being a homeschooling teacher. And Charley, you may be on mute because I can't hear you.
Yes. I there we go. Yeah, I can't hear Charley.
But you have this amazing echo, Brad.
Yeah, how about that? I love it. Everybody needs a nice echo.
Do you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Charley. Brad's got like reverb.
Okay. Well, obviously your first show, we have some AV issues, but if you guys can hear me now, the point I was going to try to make is that you guys remember the BBC video that went viral a few years ago of the kids coming in the room as the guy's being interviewed in his home office? Like we're all that guy now, right? And I think that needs to be embraced. We absolutely need to have cameos. This is real life. Families come first, and I think as we get used to this, whether it's temporary or more long term, but anyone working remote should be able to embrace the fact that they have that flexibility to be around family, which is fantastic right now, and it's fantastic anytime. And it's not something where you have to pretend that the family doesn't exist beyond the walls. It's silly.
And this is a really good microcosm of the reality, right? Like even like what we're doing here, where I'm going to take these out.
Oh, don't hear you. I'll talk while Brad's getting that going, which is
how about this?
Yeah, there we go. Go ahead, Brad.
So I think this is how the new reality, right? And how this is happening, where there's grace, there's compassion, there's an understanding things don't go perfect the right few times, right couple of times, and yet there's time associated with that, and we're still be able to get that work done. But this is a small piece of what I think people are experiencing organizationally on a large level, where we're figuring these things out and knowing and believing, and as a leader coming from a place of my folks we have the best of intentions, right? And the people around us have the best of intentions. And that is going to be a really important perspective that we're going to need as employees, as leaders, and as folks who are kind of defining the new norm of work is, gosh, how do I maybe shift to my perspective of, man, this isn't going very well, or this isn't going right, to the people that I'm working with have the best of intentions to do this with me. I'm in with this with other people. This is a community and I'm connected to them.
Well, I think it's interesting, Brad, what you're talking about on kind of two different fronts. One is the fact that people want to work, right? So there's often been this perception of, if I don't manage people, if I don't watch them closely, then they're just going to go and loaf. And with some of the folks that we've worked with, where they've said, "Hey, we can't have you in right now, but we know this puts you in a bad place. We're going to take care of your comp for the next week or 2 weeks or month or whatever," and basically kind of set them off on furlough, but not giving them anything. They're all saying, "Hey, I really appreciate what you did. I'm never going to forget it. By the way, I really want some work to do." Right? Like, a day at Netflix and chill is great, but like, after that day, people are kind of like, "I'd like to have something to do." And the idea around purpose, and really not just framing up that purpose, but the fact that people really need that as a part of their mentality. I think that's why people have this. That's why we work so much, right? Is it gives us a reason for being, and we can't lose sight, even when times are hard, that people really need that purpose and that reason to get up in the morning. And then even if they're getting paid to sit at home, they're looking for that, and that says a lot. And I think you're going to see that hopefully work on some of that mindset that, like, you have to basically beat people up to get them to work. I don't think that's ever really been true. And I hope that we kind of see that come through additive.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I think you see in these times of crisis is it magnifies the places that weren't working well to start with, right? So corporate communications has always been a challenge in every organization I've been a part of, big, small, great, early, late, whatever it might be. They've all had a problem with that. And this starts to really show it, because now you have this extra stress on the system, and it's really kind of pulled it apart. And what a great time to say, all right, now maybe I'm not running my operation as hard as I was a week or two ago. Now maybe I can work on that and set that foundation a little bit stronger, so that when we come out of this, and we're going to come out of it, we're able to move a lot faster and be way more effective. I think there's some bright spots here.
I think corporate communication is a great place to conclude on today. What I've been thinking about is really two elements that I think leadership should be putting out there, whether it's through the emails, or maybe you can even run a town hall in your company. But there's two real elements there. One is allowing yourself to be vulnerable, right? You need to show that side of yourself as a leader, because that's what builds some sort of trust within all your messaging. And you kind of balance that then with the right amount of optimism of what is going to be working, and that we are going to come out of this to make sure everyone feels safe within what's happening. And don't forget to spice on a little humor, right? Any kind of survival always requires keeping a little humor as things hit the fan, and that doesn't change right now. And I think it's hard to give you any tactical advice on how to be funny, but just kind of try to keep things light as best as you can, and roll with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
All right, guys. This was awesome. We're going to keep doing this every day. We love feedback in the YouTube comments. And everyone have a great day as we take this one day at a time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.